I will give you a challenge. UK embarked on the road for democracy. The first almost known constitution was in 1215. The Magna Carta.
Magna
Carta, yes.
It is still the white man. So the white man is going to manage my election because you can manipulate that result in your own machine electronically. You know what Odinga in Kenya was arguing about with William Ruto's election.
Let's talk of the 2017 nullification of the election, Justice Malaka. Those were some of the evidences they presented. Yeah. So, in our own African context, if we had any village leadership that we wanted to elect, would simply say, Lesaffre stand there, Irumba stand there. Those who support Lesaffre stand behind him. Those who support Irumba stand behind him. We count right there and there. And
if you look at even the French president to get elected, they had to receive the support of Gaddafi, the support of Omar Bongo. The French president got elected on African money because they didn't have enough money to compete each other.
It's okay, but the problem with Africans, we don't want to read. So they would have took another initiative. You produce it into a movie, everyone will watch it. Even the government is so dormant. Rwanda managed to produce several movies from the genocide. Uganda, the 1980 Bush War.
Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
Welcome yet to another
and then we go on
edition. Welcome to another edition of the weekly Pan-African Roundtable here at the Pan-African Pyramid. We are sitting at the Satellite Hotel in Kisasi. Your speaker is Andrew Irumba Katusabe. And in the chair already is my usual suspect, Comrade Thomas Lesaffre Mutatina, a man who speaks what others fear. He who speaks what others fear.
Today I have there's a lot of fear around.
Today you're going to fear. Comrade Samuel Kasozi, the philosopher. You also add on the Walking Encyclopedia. I gave him that name last week. I added him another title. The
man that can grab the cat from the tie with no fear.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to now the main topic, 30 minutes later. On 31st of August this year will be the 8th Pan-African Pyramid Global Awards. This is a recipient of the Pan-African Global Awards. He's a recipient of 2024.
For sure.
So the next episode is 31st of August 2025. It will be at Fairway Hotel. From this time we are beginning at 2 p.m. Okay. We want to begin with band. We will have
band music, eh?
Let's have some reggae music.
Reggae?
Music. Reggae, South African music.
Rumba. We want some rumba.
Rumba, no problem.
I want some
so
rumba.
We'll begin from 2 up to around when we get tired. You need to buy yourself some dinner cards because it's a dinner event. You need to buy a dinner card to access the venue, the event. And when you go on our social media platform, you'll find those details are there. The Andrew Irumba Live, the Pan-African Pyramid, those details are there. Now, today's debate, I wanted to rotate around the African leadership model, Mr. Kasozi. The mode of leadership in Africa and how it is impacting on development. How we are leading ourselves and how that leadership is impacting on our development, whether negatively or positively. Because we are reminded that leadership is not just about power or position. It's about purpose, accountability, and the ability to transform lives. You don't just lead people. You must lead with a purpose. And that purpose must be a positive purpose. You can't lead people backwards. And you say, I am a leader. You are only a leader when you are leading people from worse to good. Yes, that's how leadership must work. So if we have been in self-rule as Africa, the entire Africa now, there is no colonialism openly. At least now colonialism is via you and me, the black skin now, backward, neo-colonialism. But at least there is now self-determination that you can choose, like Burkina Faso Traore, and agree with his conditions or to reject the white man's money and suffer the poverty for the next 10 years, but build a future that is self-reliant. Because what is happening in these countries is that a white man comes with a bag of money and tells you, please, I want to help you. Because he knows that you are thirsty and hungry for money, you take the money. But this money has conditions. So once you accept those conditions, do not complain about how the white man is treating you. Because in the law, when you accept a choice with its conditions, now you do not tomorrow complain about the severity of the conditions. You agreed in the beginning. So this is the type of mode of leadership that we want to analyze. From the visionary leaders of like Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, to the complexity of a modern governance, Africa's story is a mosaic of strong personalities, revolutionary movements, military regimes, democratic experiments, and more recently, a youth-driven push for transparency and innovation. Yet the key question we are exploring today is, what has the prevailing mode of leadership meant for Africa's development, Mr. Kasozi? Has leadership been people-centered or power-centered? The leadership of Africa. Have our leaders inspired economic growth, social justice, and regional unity, or have they hindered progress through corruption, tribalism, and personal rule? Is Africa's underdevelopment a result of failed leadership, or are there deeper systemic and historical issues at play? This debate is not merely about criticizing or praising African leaders, it's about reflecting on patterns, learning from the past, and looking ahead to the kind of leadership that will drive genuine transformation on our continent. I will begin with the West-Lesaffre. You have colonized Africa as France.
Not myself.
Even right now you are in Hoima colonizing us through our oil. Total is in France. Total is in Hoima.
Is in Uganda,
but
in France.
Mr. Kasozi, you find African leaders today accepting to take the white man's money. Then tomorrow they complain about the conditionalities. Isn't it about time we build our own capacity? Traore, I went to Burkina Faso the other day. By the way, this cape, I told you, this cape is a gift from Traore.
Really?
This is Traore's cape. He gave it to me.
Classic Mosi.
He gave me this. He gave me this. Yes, Traore. I spent a week in Traore's home. They hosted me for a week in Burkina Faso. He gave me, yeah, that's why I love this.
It's really have a
These things are made by young boys like him. During holidays, these boys, you don't find them on TikTok, WhatsApp talking nonsense. They're on TikTok selling their products.
They're doing things like this.
Now these boys in Burkina Faso, they know the value of dollar, converting the Burkina Faso francs into dollar. They know the rate. Every morning you find them checking the rate, the dollar rate. Yeah, I went to the artisan industry. I found 30% of the young people
they were there
manufacturing these things. Now,
it used to be Thomas Sankara's idea also. You know, manufacture.
The artisan industry in Burkina Faso, when you go there, you see this here, you see this stupidity they have put at the National Theatre here. That's
what
nothing.
Is that now?
When there is this stupidity at the National Theatre.
Which is what?
You've not gone to National Theatre where there are these art crafts and so on.
Oh, like the Ndere
That is hopelessness. When you go to Burkina Faso, you have 10 of these. The place is as big as 10 of those, even more.
That's true.
And each section, they have sections. Each section you go, somebody is like doing tourism. They're explaining to you the meaning of these arts.
Yes.
They are explaining to you. A young boy.
They know the history.
Then they are molding. You know these trophies they normally give in sports like football, like tennis, like golf. You see these trophies they give. These boys are molding them mechanically with fire. I saw them myself. I even ran that video. These are young boys. One trophy is equivalent in Ugandan money about 3 million. One.
Just one, eh?
He has made it with his hands.
Yes.
So when is he going to get time to start abusing leaders in Africa? In Uganda, when you check social media, TikTok especially, you see what is happening. That is the future of leaders that we are building. So anyway, let me go to West-Lesaffre.
No, we can start with we're starting here. Oh, you want me?
Yeah.
No, when we speak of the mode of leadership, I think there's 3 points I want to raise maybe, and then pass also to my philosopher colleagues here. But first we need to consider the fact that there's a new generation of leaders emerging, right? And it's not only by coup d'état. Mr. Sonko and Bissaroufa in Senegal, they've been elected. At his own time, also Ruto in Kenya was elected. So there is a new generation of leaders, and that generation of leaders have literally learned and thought like we have learned and thought by looking at the situation. When the previous generation, they used to know of independence, they used to know of colonial time, they used to know of neo-colonial time. So the idea and this perspective were different. Now we can see that new generation of leaders that comes and that claim what is rightly ours. So I want to praise that new generation of leaders and just show that we're not in a monolithic situation where every leader is one style or another style. Now we definitely have a lot of mushrooming of leadership with similar values and directions. However, my concern is that they play within a trap. That the trap has been set, and that whatever leader we choose, because remember also democracy or democracy, as Fela Kuti used to call it, democracy also push for oppositions more than stability sometimes. And what we found is that when you play like this, now you have a leadership that changes every 5 years or 10 years, but all the time they come to power, they sign a debt or a loan for 30 years or 40 years, right? And so now we think we have choices, but we don't really have choices, because we sit in a train and the train is set on a rail already, and you can't really renegotiate those things, right? You can look at how Guinean's new leader, Amadou, is really trying to change the mining contract, the mining codes, but it's already set. Same for Tshisekedi and the mining code in Congo. It was set by Kabila. So you set things and policy for 40 or 50 years, but you can only roll like 5 or 10 years, right? So there's a bit of a problem here.
Actually, Kenya, William Ruto, almost half of his term is paying the debts of Uhuru Kenyatta. So then they will say you have failed, but I am paying a debt that I did not myself say.
Yeah. And then that's part of the situation in the street, right? So first, like the
kind of debts that Uganda so far has in the last 40 years of NRM rule, the coming government, it will take them about 50 years or 60 years paying debts of one leadership.
No,
so when will that new
so
leadership plan its own trajectory?
But the debt in Uganda is not as bad as Kenya. Eh?
What are you talking about, man?
No, not as bad. Kenyan's debt is high because also the GDP is higher, so they manage to borrow more from. But anyway, the idea is that there's an economic trap, right? So even when new leadership arrives, he has to deal with the reality. Like the African National Congress, when they seized power in South Africa, they quickly understood that if they don't reimburse the debt of apartheid used to go and get loans to manufacture weapons to fight black people. The very same black people that took power after independence, now they have to pay back the debt that was used to fight with them.
The apartheid people,
yes,
who were taking loans to buy munitions to fight us, the black people. And when we won the war, now we are the ones paying.
Yes.
For the date.
And they even destroy the atomic bomb. So they make sure that they pay for the bomb that used to bomb them, but they don't have the actual atomic bomb, so they can actually rule properly. So first, a new generation of leaders.
What nonsense is this?
Secondly, we have to be careful because they are in the trap of an economic system. And the trap of the economic system is to make us believe that we can fight each other. 54 countries in that continent, right? 54 countries in that continent that have to fight each other on coffee, on tea, on gold, on platinums, and so they lower the prices, right? So they like to devalue what is valuable here. There's an economic trap that does all of this. It's the same economic trap that set the price of what Ugandan workers is doing in his cocoa farm or in his coffee farm. That thing is set in Washington or set in New York or set in Paris, right? So within this economic system, what are the capacity of any new leadership? That's the question I would be asking myself. Because within an economic system that is set, that has this base that we know really well, really efficient economic system, because the national bourgeoisie is winning a lot of money at the same time that the majority of people, the 99%, are getting poorer and poorer, right? So what you find is you find people in Uganda or in other countries, in Kenya, they've been working for, let's say, I don't know, 20,000 shillings a day, but that 20,000 shillings a day, it's actually like 25,000 shillings of 2 or 3 days ago. So even now, then the president say he raised the salary, or he's pushing this and that policy, this economic policy, that economic policy. It's always like to just take us back from where we were, right? So you have an economic system that is called neoliberalism that push for the impoverishment of the majority of the population, for enrichment of a small minority. And that functions really well. The economic system as it is set for that. Will new leadership manage to change that trap? I don't know. But what I know is that the trap is set, and it's set with the loans. So now, like the situation is there. So just to conclude, for my small presentation, right? It is quite clear, as it was before, that the only solution in this case is Pan-Africanism, right? If you look at the countries that do not apply that neoliberal model, it's Russia, it's China, even the US now with Donald Trump are changing a bit that model. They're trying to do protectionism and stuff. So every big country that has enough strength to fight the system is trying to fight the system. Us, are we too small to fight the system? I believe, unfortunately, yes. But when we are united, when East Africa unites, where Central Africa and East Africa unite together, the world is missing minerals. The world is looking at it because he fear that the blood of the system, the minerals that allows all of those economic system, is lacking, right? So first, new generation of leadership. However, they have to front an economic trap. It's not easy. That's also why Traoré has not changed the franc CFA yet, because the economic trap is really solid and strong. And the answer to all of this is proper Pan-Africanism, because we need that economic sovereignty. But the economic sovereignty of a country like Namibia of 5 or 6 million people is difficult to defend in front of like superpower that have 450 million people, 550 million people. We have to be together and united.
Very good. Kasozi, the philosopher, the mode of leadership in Africa, is it really helping us to develop ourselves? Okay. Because, Mr. Kasozi, when you look at Africa, most African countries, the mode of leadership is a copy and paste from the Western world. Definitely. That America comes and tells you, Uganda, we need you to start holding elections every 5 years. Every 5 years, people must be able to choose their leader. We are the ones going to facilitate the electoral process. In fact, we are the ones going even to sponsor the ballot papers. But those ballot papers are not even going to be printed in Uganda. We'll be printed in Germany or America. We will pay. We will even send you election observers. We will pay. We will even give us your budget, Uganda, for the electoral process. Europe will pay. The system they are bringing you is their system, based on their values as Europeans. They want to bring the same system to Africa, we adopt it. You know, the system has worked in your home, you West-Lesaffre. Not even. You come and force me in Africa to adopt the same system. But then you are in control of that system. When you say, vote by fingerprints, electoral, you know?
The machines.
The machines. Who is controlling those machines?
And who is controlling the data?
When you say vote by ballot paper,
who is controlling
you know very well that after casting my vote into the ballot paper, now the person going to control the counting of this ballot paper, tallying them onto the system to send to Kyamboku is no longer me. Because I'm not the one in control of that technology. It is still the white man. So the white man is going to manage my election. Because you can manipulate that result in your own machine electronically. You know what Odinga in Kenya was arguing about with William Ruto's election.
Let's talk of the 2017 nullification of the election, Justice Malaka. Those were some of the evidences they presented. So,
in our own African context, if we had any village leadership that we wanted to elect, would simply say, Lesaffre stand there, Irumba stand there. Those who support Lesaffre stand behind him. Those who support Irumba stand behind him. We count right there and there.
And it was democracy.
And it was democracy.
Democracy.
Now they started bringing this stupidity that you see, the neighbors who don't support Lesaffre, and Lesaffre seeing them standing on his opponent. Tomorrow but now, during campaigns, we see clearly that this here is a supporter of Lesaffre. On his campaigns, you see this one is supporting this one is supporting that.
And even violence manifests.
Yes. You see, right now we know who the supporters of Babu are. We know who the supporters of Museveni are. We know, you get it. So, what are you trying to protect by saying, let us use a secret ballot? Secret ballot, after casting my vote, I am not in charge of the processes that are going to legitimate it or illegitimate it.
But even which country have developed in the mandate of 5 years?
So,
it's going to 5 years mandate.
UK, the Queen came and ruled until she died. And when she died, the son is ruling. they are fighting these other small positions, but the leader, the president, is monarch system. But when they come to Uganda, they want you to vote every 5 years. In other words, Mr. Samuel Kasozi, every 5 years, the country goes down into the trenches. And then as you start to raise it again, another election cycle comes. Remember, in Uganda, it's like we're in politics full time. Because even after winning immediately, politics start playing.
By elections and the others.
Go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, before tackling on the main topic, I have to supplement about Mr. Lesaffre, what he said. There is a point which I know you will not mention among my points. He talked about that date. That African leaders, they find themselves entangled in a debt trap. But that one also cannot hinder progress. I'm telling you. Yes. Being in a debt bondage cannot hinder progress just because we don't have leaders who are versatile about how to reform countries. Brazil is one of the promising developing countries and very strong. Yes,
at a rapid speed.
The president who developed Brazil 1957 was called Juscelino Kubitschek.
Juscelino Kubitschek. I've never heard of that one.
He was a dictator.
Which year was that?
57. That's when he.
Oh, he was not around.
He was the one that kicked Pele in Brazil.
Definitely, and he's the one who promoted football in Brazil. Yes, he constructed very many arenas and the others. Juscelino, and is the one who established Brazil as a capital city.
Voila.
The capital city was Rio de Janeiro. Then he transferred
to colonial capital.
Yes, but it was congested, very small, in between mountains. Like Kampala, in between mountains. So he constructed a new city with a vision of having an aerial view of like a drone bow and the arrow. Area view when you are in the air. So he had a vision. So he embarked on several infrastructure establishments that contributed to employment. But by that time, Brazil had debts. It was the most indebted country in the world.
Brazil.
But
the most indebted country
in the world.
Worked around it.
But the guy established several infrastructure that provided employment, increased productivity, and is the one who went against those whites as far as utilizing the Amazon. They were against him for utilizing the Amazon. He said environmental conservation is the luxury of rich countries, not poor countries. It's the luxury of rich countries. Conserving, yes, because USA, they have already established their industries. France, the Lorraine and the Alsace were so developed by 1980s, were industrial cities. You go to Germany, the Ruhr region and the other, they had exploited coal and everything.
Everything, coal, everything was done.
Now they are developed. They are telling these countries which have not yet embarked on the road for development
to use Amazon,
to not to utilize Amazon. Did they not utilize the alpine forests? Many were used. You go to Russia, St. Petersburg was a wetland. But they constructed, it's now the 13th largest city in the world on the wetland. Then you are telling Brazil not to utilize wetlands. When it's poor, Juscelino developed Brazil at the expense of...
You went and encroached on the Amazon.
They are now producing soya beans, what, so many.
It was almost 2/3 of the country.
Hey. So
Amazon was almost 2/3 of the country. And then Americans are telling police don't touch.
Don't touch.
Then where should I develop myself from?
that's the problem.
And who are you telling me anyway?
From basically, they wanted president to go and work cheap work. In,
and then you start asking
you send back remnants and so on.
So that's what I'm saying, that even if a country has huge debt, it can still develop if it has a leader who is well focused. I've given an example of Brazil. Then about
but that leader can't be a democratic leader, because now if every 5 years there's an election to fight him, he can't stay in power. He can't stay in power.
Definitely. South American countries, Argentina, whenever I talk about dairy farming and what extensive farming, we talk about Argentina. But Argentina had repressive governments. The Leopoldo Galtieri and the others, they initiated the fascist regime in South America, but they developed the country. So that's where I'm going. African leaders were blindly convinced by the time of independence that Africa needed democracy, and they were convinced
that Africa needed democracy to develop, which is not true.
Which is not true. I will give you a challenge. UK embarked on the road for democracy. The first almost known constitution was in 1215. The Magna Carta.
Magna Carta,
yes. It was called the Great Charter. That was the first document which shows the origin of democracy in UK.
Magna Carta.
Yes, it limited the power of the king, and it gave some power to the knights and the nobles. So the power of the king was limited. It was as a evolution of democracy. Then from that time, they had a repressive government that some of their kings were even beheaded. Hey, yes, Charles I by Cromwell, 1640 for 16,066 around something. That's when Cromwell and the monarchy was what? Ended at first in Britain. So those countries, they did not embark on democracy.
The one we have now is Charles the what? The one we have, Charles
Tennessee. But the other one was Charles the First. He was beheaded.
He was beheaded?
Yes. So as to transform the monarchy. So that's when the British monarchy started to be democratic. But they were not democratic. You go to France, his country.
There were no democracy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Louis the 16th was guillotined.
I know, right.
There was no democracy. Louis the 14th is the fourth dictatorial leader on this world.
That's
Louis on the list. Louis the 14th.
And he led France.
France. And it's the one. Yes, and is the one who modernized France. He constructed the Versailles Palace, and but he was a dictator.
Big dictator.
Is the fourth of the dictators that have ever existed in the world. So France had no democracy. Not until
Not even speaking of Napoleon despising all Europe without permission of no one.
Not until they had fulfilled most of the requirements for growth.
Yes.
They had India as a colony, the British and what? France had colonized Canada and so many. So they had the resources. So not until Second World War with the Fourth French Republic, that's when democracy, real democracy existed in France after developing.
Even it wasn't because we were still colonizing the world. We were still colonizing the world at that time.
North Africa and So they had no democracy. Then how do you expect younger nations like Togo, Uganda, like Mali, like Kenya to have democracy and develop?
Like Uganda, you have avoided Uganda. Why?
People don't have this nonsense.
They know everything about Uganda. So how do you expect younger nation to adapt to democracy at that stage of infance and develop? So African leaders were convinced. That was the danger. So from that time we adopted a style, a leadership style of pseudo-democrats. Not real democrats, but pseudo-democrats.
Pseudo-democrats.
Yes.
Pseudo-democracy.
Yes.
That's what we adopted.
That's what we adopted. Not democracy, but pseudo-democracy. Where someone mixes democracy with autocracy. Those are the leaders we had. The whites were just looking around.
So Mukasambide would say we don't have democracy, but democratula. Democracia is what
yes,
not democracy.
it's just we used to call them. There's something, and I try to remember it. So, because of that kind of style which we adopted, African could not develop.
And you are very right. You see this, Africa? If you want to nurture, start with the young people, the children. Even in my home, in my own home, the principle is one clear. There is no democracy here. There is only room to do the right thing. And if you say a child that you have the right to do this or not to do it, he will not do it.
No.
But then, in the long run, it will affect the entire family.
Definitely.
So there is no room for you to choose a choice that if I want, I will do. If I don't want, I will not do. No. There is only room to do the right thing. If the right thing is you must do, then you must do. That way you are building a family. This is the same to the entire country. In Uganda, when I have just seen the behavior on the road. Just look at the road in Uganda. During the Idi Amin's time, no border or car driver could simply drive anyhow into another police vehicle, an army vehicle.
You could.
They would fear the army vehicles. They respected. Not just fear, but they respected. This is army, this is government. Today, a border is crisscrossing an army vehicle. An army vehicle has an assignment that is national in nature. Maybe they are running somewhere to kick Konyo somewhere. A border comes. He wants to enter the vehicle. The army or police vehicle should stop. The border man passes. So there is no more when they knock him, we make a lot of noise. These soldiers are indisciplined. But really, begin with yourself. If you know the role of the army and the police, were you in the first place supposed to, try to compete for the road? What do you lose when you let them go? I have seen the indiscipline on the road. But in the Uganda, the biggest contribution of accident is border. And the police also has given up like this. You go on traffic lights. Borders will be driving in a one-way road. Police will be like this, not minding them. You as a car driver, you make a mistake and try to start before the traffic light lights green. Because it first comes to yellow, then green. You start. The man will stop you and charge you for just a small thing, slight thing. But they will stop you and ask you why you are not putting on a seat belt and charge you a seat belt. But a border man is driving in one way. And he's even competing with the cars that are driving on the right way. They want to pass fast before the person who is driving on the right way passes. So I think that's this kind of democracy, the human rights they are talking about, they have also they have contributed so much.
No, I'm still giving my submission. We shall end by finding out where the problem is. So I've talked of the democracy which was imposed on younger nations with several problems. Jefferson was the president of the third president of US. Hey.
Jefferson.
Yes, Thomas Jefferson. And he was one of the founding father and the one who written that constitution of USA when they called the Constitutional Convention. Thomas Jefferson said, younger nations have so many problems. So in such a nation, we need stronger laws to enable that nation to develop. Younger nations need stronger rules to develop. Even God, people talk about God, but God is one of the biggest dictators we have ever seen.
Are you sure?
Yes. Yes. Why? God brought the Israel from Egypt, and when they reached Sinai in the wilderness, the Israelites were unruly. God gave Moses 10 commandments, but they were weak. The 10 commandments. Don't steal. When I see what do they do? Nothing. So they could sin deliberately. What God did told Moses that you go and write this book, the one we call the Deuteronomy. Write this book where there is a law and the ordinance. So it was the penal code. The laws were so harsh, draconian, that even minor offense could call for death. because he wanted to instill discipline amongst Israelites. That was dictatorship. How do you expect a younger country like Uganda? We still have people, wizards, we still have what? So many people, you give them the right to pay you. We have thieves, they have right to pay. So that's the problem. We are style which was not appropriate for Africa at that time. Roman Empire expanded because during the times of crisis and the wars, the parliament could enact a law giving one person the right to rule as a dictator. Roman Empire.
Hey.
Do you know the origin of dictatorship from Roman Empire? A dictator was a judge. So they could appoint a judge during the Roman Republic to rule as a dictator so that the Roman Republic can overcome the crisis. Dictator is the only solution for crisis and wars. Dictatorship.
So in Uganda we need a dictator.
That was the solution.
You see how Kagame has transformed. Everybody is using Rwanda as an example. But in West-Lesaffre, I was in Rwanda. I was in Rwanda.
Yeah, people are sad, eh?
I was in Rwanda in when? When was I in Rwanda?
I think it was when you went to Mweza.
Yeah.
Was it not the same trip?
No, Mwanza is different. I was in Mwanza different, Tanzania. I was in Rwanda in around December.
Yeah, it was this year. This season of Pan-African Pyramid.
My friend, I sat in my hotel to watch TV. There is no TV in Rwanda that has these stupid shows like we have in Uganda here. This Mansura here, you see. This naked women you see here. Rwanda you cannot. Rwanda you cannot. All TVs, first of all, they embrace religion. Most of them are preaching. You get it?
At least you pretend.
Hey.
At least you belong to any religion.
But when you look at their nature of presentation, it is a presentation that preserves their cultures and traditions and norms. Here, in fact, Rwandese who want to misbehave on weekends, they come to
Uganda.
Yes. On weekends.
And very many buses crosses the border to Uganda.
They know it. They know it. They come to Uganda.
Then they go back and behave.
The moment they reach Rwanda, the border, they put on well. When they are leaving Rwanda to come here, the border, they change. So now, when you look at how Rwanda, Kagame has transformed his country, do you think in Rwanda you can speak any nonsense? It's not possible. But Rwandese have benefited from his leadership. When you go to Rwanda, you see real transformation.
Yes.
Real.
A nation and
Libya. Gaddafi took away their rights and gave them the development. Now, the stupidity that America came with, that you have your democracy. Now, where are the rights now? Yeah. Where are the hospitals? Where are the roads? Where is their oil? It is America taking it.
Okay. So, I was saying that was the problem. We have talked of Rwanda, and I want to use it as one of the examples to defend this. Democracy has affected our countries. Countries that manage to develop, I'm going to give references. There is a kind of leadership or dictatorship which is generally admirable all over the world. The benevolent dictatorship.
Benevolent.
That was the example of leaders Africa needed after independence. Benevolent dictators. A benevolent dictator is a dictator who reduces some of the rights of the people for the good of the public.
For the bigger society?
Yes. I can give an example of Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore.
Lee Kuan Yew?
Hey, Singapore. Lee Kuan Yew had some of the harsh laws in Singapore. They could give you rashes on the street, sticks on the street.
You could be killed for one joint of weed.
Yes, Singapore.
Killed.
Singapore, they introduced
zero drugs.
Yes, they introduced the train systems and the escalators. They realized that people were using this the one with chewing gums. So they put in some of the keyholes, what and what. So they were contaminating the city with chewing gums. What they did, they never banned taking chewing gums. They banned exporting them and manufacturing. So where will you get the chewing gum? So they never made it that it's illegal for you to eat chewing gum. But they made it illegal to import the supply. They made it sure that there is liquidity in the supply of chewing gum. So they had the hashing law that gave that country a chance to transform within 3 decades from third world country to a first world country because of hashing law. So that is one of the examples of a benevolent dictator. You reduce some of the rights, not all. Even in Libya, people had their rights, but just some few. But here you have given Uganda the extreme.
That's why a young boy of 16 years, you find him on TikTok abusing a leader, national president Museveni.
Yes.
He abuses Kabaka. When you arrest him, and when he's talking on TikTok, you think he's a very big guy. And all that. When you see him in court,
even
very useless, very well.
Even his bed is not the size of this country.
And I'm telling you, that's the problem. Democracy. That's why one of the greatest leaders of China was called Deng Xiaoping. The one who was there during the Tiananmen Square massacre in China. When he was liberalizing China from harsh communism to a mixed with some kind of capitalism.
It's governed capitalism.
Yes. He also introduced some kind of democracy. When he introduced democracy, students all over China gathered at Tiananmen Square to demand for more rights. Deng Xiaoping said that democracy is like opening up the window to get fresh air. When you open up the window, even flies and mosquitoes will enter. So you don't close the window, you remove the flies. So what he did was to kill those students on the Tiananmen Square.
Hey!
Yes.
For demanding
more freedoms. I've given you some. You are demanding for more. The guy brought tankers and what they smashed all the students.
Are you serious?
Tiananmen incident. The world condemned, but China never mind about anything. So for him, we had to remove those negative elements so that the country can go.
And China has moved.
Why not? It's now almost becoming a superpower. So those countries.
China has moved without these students.
No, students are there, but they never evolve. For them, they already gone. They already gone.
The point I'm saying, these students who are demanding for more freedom.
Yes.
Now China has evolved without them. And nobody now.
So some are here in Uganda. I met some of those guys in Tiananmen.
The survivors and what?
They are here.
They were
quiet about it. They can't speak about it in Chinese. They speak about it in English. They're pretty quiet about it.
But it is developing, and people are enjoying good life.
But look at all dictatorships. Look at Russia, developed.
And that's where I've been good.
Okay.
But I've been talking about benevolent as they categorize them. So when you look at a country, like I give an example of Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia.
Slobodan Milosevic.
No, that one was new. But the first was called Josip Broz Tito. Tito developed Yugoslavia, but he managed to unite Yugoslavia as an empire. By the time of his death, it was around 1990. Yugoslavia broke away into 8 states.
It broke away into 8 states.
Croatia, Slovakia, Bosnia, what and what. But he managed to rule Yugoslavia and develop. Was a benevolent dictator. He wasn't democratic. When you go to Turkey, Kemal Atatürk of Turkey is the father of modern Turkey. We are now running from Uganda to Turkey, but because of the product of Kemal Atatürk, he developed the country out of his dictatorship. You go to Catherine the Great, who was a German princess who was married to Russia and became a queen and ruled over Russia from Germany. But
he went there.
She was married. She was married
to
a Russian king. Then after the death of the king,
she took over.
Yes. But she's called Catherine the Great because she managed to transform, and she's one of the examples of the enlightened dictators, because he used to support even these philosophers to go to Russia. So it was welcoming. Then you talk of the Peter the Great. They were dictators. They managed to develop the St. Petersburg from Peter the Great. So those are the leaders Africa needed. By these people imposed on us, these pseudo-democratic leaders who are, instead of being democratic, they turned into royal dictators. That's the problem.
But how do you keep them accountable? How do you make sure we have the right leaders? Because me, I believe the right leaders, they come from war.
Yes.
They come from war.
Yes.
But we don't want
The
war.
right leaders come from war.
They come from war. They win the war and then they lead.
And that's why Rwanda is developing now, having experience from the genocide. So Rwanda is now on the road.
But so how do we keep them accountable? Because we can't create wars to find the next leader every 40 years, you know? So how do we find the right ones?
Okay, so for me what I can say is that African leaders should embrace some ideas and references from other countries. We are talking about Pan-Africanism. African leaders should know that Africa is our continent. They should reduce that kind of communal appeal. That's the danger of most of the African leaders, communal appeal. When you become a president, you make sure that people who are of the same tribe are the one benefiting. That's the problem. Traore is not doing that. Sankara never did that.
Never.
Manuel Lorenzo of Comoros never did. That's why those countries are developed. When you go to Seretis, come off Botswana, so that's the problem. So we have to use this what shows to make sure we influence those leaders. So we shall end up having some example. Now Traore is becoming exemplary to all those countries. That's why we have the what they call the coup belts, Mali, Burkina Faso. They are also resembled. So if at all we get some few leaders who are exemplary, others will also. But African will lack contemporaries. We don't compare. So when we get one good leader like Kagame, now everyone is admiring Kagame's what? Leadership. That's the problem. So if at all we are to get good leaders, we need to get what Pareto said, that a city, a well-governed city must be governed by a philosopher. Someone with a lot of understanding
of the situation.
Yes, someone who can have a dream for the country, that I want a country like this. As I've told you for Jaskelino Kubusche, that he wanted Brazil of this and this and this, who has a dream for the country. Those are the leaders we need. Like USA to develop, it was a product of one Puritan was called the Penny, the one whom they named that state Pennsylvania. But yes, when that guy reached USA, they established colonies. He established a colony for Puritans, strong Christians. Puritanism in that state
must be pure.
Yes. So in that state. So when he established that colony, he made it sure that the city they had established is well planned, with bigger streets, with planned buildings and everything. So he initiated planning for the cities in the Western Hemisphere. So all other states started to copy from him. So he is the father of modern US. But he had a dream. We need a city with the big streets, because they had seen the problem of smaller streets in Europe. So they wanted to stay with big streets. A city where people can plan for their residence. So he had a dream. The danger we have our leaders without dreams. When they come to power, they appeal to communal benefit, communal appeal. How do I appease my people to stay in power? That's one of the danger. When you go to countries that have managed to break that, they have developed.
So in other words, we did bad to expel Amin.
Amin was
because Amin was doing exactly what the Gaddafis did, what Russia is doing. This man, this Russia President Putin. China, Turkey, South North Korea. You have forgotten that man, North Korea.
So they display bad image about not develop, but which is not true. But at least they are doing something good.
And as we went up, Comrade Kasozi, when you look at America, this is what they first did. America first developed their infrastructure and development and democracy for over 200 years.
No, it's not true. It's not true. America and all those countries, it's good West-Lesaffre is here, will bear witness. They had poor infrastructures. They were just modernized at the end of the 19th century. What they termed as urban modernization, where they demolished cities and what? Because Manchester was even called the Yellow City during the Industrial Revolution. Smoke from industry had covered all the roofs of the what? The houses in the city. So not until First World War, when they realized that the Germans were stronger, the German soldiers were stronger than the British because poor housing policy. That's what they realized. Britain produced weaker soldiers than Germany. So they embarked on the policy of modifying their cities. That's when they demolished buildings, they expanded the roads and everything. So that trend went even to America. California, they demolished buildings to create land for roads. So that's when they adopted the policy of land acquisition. Even in the US, you can take land, develop for the public good from a private citizen. So the policy that made those countries have good infrastructures was land acquisition.
Okay, but the point I was making was not in terms of the road infrastructure, housing. It was in terms of the infrastructure they build for democracy.
Okay, yes.
Democracy. That was my point.
Okay.
That they first took over 200 years building a conveyor for democracy. But when they were doing that, they were not democratic. They were dictators.
Yes.
After building it and then trusting that now it is a farm, nobody can shake it.
Then you
now they
democracy will come in.
Democracy. Now they say Trump, you can come and lead. Obama, you can come and lead. Biden, you can come and lead.
The federal system is there. The two chambers of are there. But establishing them was a product of.
Trump, even if you come and sit here in this conveyor and lead America for the next 5 years, or Biden, or Obama, there is nothing fundamental that you can change from the dreams of America. The ones who started it. Those who started it and built it, they were not democratic. If it needed you to be killed for this conveyor to be built, you would be killed. If your land needed to be taken by force, without compassion, they would take it.
Yes.
You get it? If they needed to kill so many people along this road who were complaining, why are you passing here this road? They would kill you.
The other time I told you about the Indian Removal Act, where they removed the land to the Red Indians.
Yes.
It was an act passed in the parliament. That's the dictatorship.
Yes. So they first built their democracy. Then now they brought, the infrastructure, then they brought democracy on top. But this democracy, the conveyor down is not democratic. That's why they even have two parliaments, the poor and the rich. The poor are given the first opportunity, you vote. They vote, West-Lesaffre and Irumba and Kasos. Now they take to the rich. Now the rich will have a chance to choose. And the one they choose is the true leader. In America and UK and Canada. And they are calling it democracy. But with the poor people, who are even more than you, the rich people, we voted the West-Lesaffre. Why are you saying us Irumba? If you are saying democracy and we are all equal, there shouldn't be two parliaments for the rich and for the poor. All of us are equal. My vote is equivalent to your vote. Whether you are how many billions of money rich and I am how many dollars poor, my vote is as powerful as yours, isn't it? That is democracy.
That's what they say.
When it comes to America, no, they have two levels. The poor, you first vote,
and then you vote for the
then
voters.
you send it to the rich. But when they come to Africa, they say all of you are equal. You get
Men and women.
Hey, even the drunkard,
even the 16 years old,
the drunkard who slept in the bar last night,
to yours,
in the morning he wakes up dangling and goes to the polling station. His vote is as strong as mine.
Who is informed?
Who is informed?
Even as strong as the president himself.
So that drunkard has power to vote President Museveni or not vote him and vote another person.
For 2,000 rand, he's going to vote for whoever you ask him to vote for.
When they came here, they brought this democracy. The problem is that they came with money, and African leaders were interested in money. So they said, here is the thing, but this is the money we're going to fund. The Africans went for the money.
Because
now,
they lost
40
their
years
power.
later in Uganda, we are suffering. That's why you see that a boy for the 6 years, Cedric, can die of a heart heart transplant. But the same person in India, Europe and America is still alive with the same complication. Why? Just imagine how long it will take Cedric from Rwanda, where he was first diagnosed, to Nairobi, Kenya, now to India. Just look at that time. Now, an Indian who is in India, who was diagnosed of the same problem, he simply walked from his home and to that hospital. And once they said you need a heart transplant, he did not return home. They are working on it. For Cedric, he needs first to be in Kenya, raise 1.5 billion, then book a flight. Those hours you spend between Kenya and India, what is happening to your heart? You get it? Here, you saw what happened to Jacob Bolanya, the former Speaker of Parliament. They had to get a chopper, private jet.
Yeah.
But you can imagine the hours you ride from Kampala to where you're going, Seattle. What is happening to your kidney, my friend, if there is poison? I'm not saying there was. But how much has caused damage?
It would be too much.
So, the problem is that we accepted the democracy, the mode that is working for some people
who are advanced.
Not. For us, it's like you telling a young boy of 2 years that you must run as fast as Irumba. This is a young boy.
No, let me give a good example. Telling a younger boy of 4 years to impregnate a woman.
That's the hard one.
Yeah, 4 years. So, Uganda, the population was so illiterate. We don't even have bureaucrats who can manage democracy. You end up giving them democracy. Yet even those countries, the one we are talking, they are not true democratic countries.
They're not.
They just sugarcoat their dictatorship.
Yeah,
America is the very example.
that's what I wanted to say when I was listening, because let's not look it like democracy delivers to those people, because it delivers to a particular class of governing people. It delivers to the rich, right? So yes, the rich are getting richer, and we look at them on Instagram, on media or whatever, because now they have the power to showcase themselves as the entrepreneurs and those that made it themselves, blah blah blah, all that bullshit. But they also made it under democracy, right? Because the democracy was weak for the strong. So at the moment when you inherit some money from your parents, now you can do a lot of things with that money and you continue to get rich. But what you're really doing is that you're rising up from a system that is established for you, for your class. The rest of the population is getting poor. So as we speak, the rest of the population is also getting poor in Europe. It's also getting poor in America. It's also the life expectancy is also reducing. But I believe that democracy doesn't work, neither here, neither that side, because it gave too much room of power for those with money. Right? Because the divisions are easy to play now. And they're easy to play in Europe, they're easy to play here. If you look at even the French president to get elected, they had to receive the support of Gaddafi, the support of Omar Bongo. The French president got elected on African money because they didn't have enough money to compete each other.
And I remember they say even the daughter of Dos Santos.
The daughter of Dos Santos gave some money to the French politicians, so they get elected. Because running a campaign is expensive. Whatever your name is Obama or it is Muhuzi, it's a campaign is expensive, right? So you open the door for the power of money. Because there's no other power, there's no bureaucratic powers, there's no people's power. You just open. The problem of capitalist society is that the democracy is the best system for capitalist society, because capitalism gives power to money. It takes power from leadership and it takes power from the people
And give it to money.
and he makes the two oppose each other. So we don't look at the fact that the real power is who have the money. And so we're gonna think like, oh, Macron, maybe for the French president, Macron has the money. But now you realize that the richest Frenchman has become the richest man in the world, and the Macron authority, and the Macron presidency. So you ask yourself, who has won? Is it Macron? Or is it the guy with the money and the rich? Right? It's the guy with the money.
And on that note, comrades, we've come to the end of today's weekly roundtable with my comrade Thomas West-Lesaffre Mutatina and comrade Kasozi Samuel, the philosopher, aka the Walking Encyclopedia. On the 31st of August 2025, don't forget the 8th edition of the Pan-African Pyramid Global Awards. They call it PAP Global Awards, and the 11th anniversary dinner. We shall be celebrating our 11th anniversary dinner fused with the awards ceremony at Fairway Hotel on 31st of August. Every one of you is invited, but please ensure to get yourself a dinner card. Andrew Irumba Katusebe is my name. Thank you, Comrade Samuel Kasozi, the philosopher. Thank you so much, Comrade Thomas West-Lesaffre Mutatina. Our third usual suspect, Comrade Rugarama, Dan Rugarama, has been on a Pan-African assignment in Caracas. I think he's now on the flight. He's coming back next Monday. We shall be with him. I hope he doesn't come late on Monday because there is new rules now. When you come late, 20 push-ups here.
20 push-ups.
I hope you remember it.
I hope also, yeah. Next week Monday we'll replace.
We shall have Comrade Rugarama next week. We sent him on a Pan-African agenda in Caracas. He will come here and give us some details. Africa, don't agonize.
Organize.
Don't agonize.
Organize. Aluta.
Continua.
Aluta.
Continua.
Amandwa.
One Africa.
One people.
One people.
One Africa.
Thank you so much.